BBC Radio Derby.
Now, Doctor has written a poem to highlight concerns around domestic violence during the current coronavirus pandemic. The poem is performed in a video which aims to persuade people to end the silence over abuse. Dr. Bilal Hassam wrote the poem and he joins me on the line to tell us about it. Dr. Hassam, how did the idea come about for the poem?
Well, thanks for having me on. Really, domestic violence is a problem that many societies face. Every community really has it in its own way. The statistics say that on average 2 people are killed every single week by a partner. So it's a horrific and really tragic reality of our society. But since the lockdown has happened, domestic violence rates have skyrocketed. And one study in The Guardian estimated that the death rates, murder rates because of domestic violence has doubled since the restrictions began. So you can imagine this is like a crisis upon crisis, really. And it came about because, there's a charity that we work with called PennyAppeal, and they run a domestic abuse helpline. And we wanted to raise awareness to tell people that there are services out there, that no one should suffer in silence. And really, we as community members need to be more vigilant with each other, with our friends, checking in with people, because it's even more difficult to spot the signs of abuse given the lockdown.
This poem is part of a YouTube video. What is the key message you're trying to get across to people?
Yeah, so we actually were able to get lots of different sort of well-known people to feature in a video. If you just type in Penny Appeal, Let's End the Silence on YouTube, you can find the video. But we had lots of different personalities. You might know the British comedian, Tez Ilyas. We had Atif Nawaz from BBC, Abdullah Afzal. We had the Member of Parliament, Dr. Razina. She featured on the video as well. And the key message, again, is to just tell people, let's not suffer in silence. Support is out there. Please access the support. And for those of you who might have even the smallest suspicion that someone might be going through something or might be vulnerable to abuse, to really have a low threshold to inquire more and to offer your support.
Are there any telltale signs of abuse? A lot of people kind of suffer in silence when they're not quite sure whether that is abuse or it's just kind of, confrontational partner, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question because abuse comes in lots of different forms. There's obviously violent abuse, which we can identify very clearly, but that's really the tip of the iceberg. Abuse comes in lots of different forms: emotional abuse, financial abuse. There's lots of ways in which partners, both men and women, control each other, and when it spills out into a level which impacts your relationship and impacts your well-being, that's when you need to get help. Getting help is not a sign of weakness; it's a sign of strength. And so many of those women in particular who have sadly, as I said, every week people are losing their lives because of domestic violence. It doesn't start with, it doesn't start with a violent attack. It starts off with the smaller, subtler signs of being controlled, being shouted at, being, belittled, and so on. And so we really have to be aware of all the different signs. But as I said, most importantly, if you're worried in even the slightest way, that we run a helpline. There's lots of other helpline services available. Even, one of the things we've launched as Penny Appeal is a chat service, because we're conscious that sometimes picking up the phone, someone might hear you in the same household, and you might be scared, given the lockdown, that you can't speak to someone. So you can type in and have a chat, messaging exchange with one of our trained counsellors, so that you can get the support you need.
Some MPs have talked about safe spaces. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion in the early days of the lockdown because some of women's shelters and other sort of places of support were closed down initially. And the police have also said that they are experiencing less people reaching out for support because of the lockdown and because of the restrictions. So the idea of creating safe spaces is a really important one. But again, the main message to drill home is that support is there. Don't worry about the restrictions and so on when your own well-being is at risk, because the police are aware, the domestic violence support services across the country are aware of the challenges that this issue, has during the lockdown. So please get the support. And if we can support the development of safe spaces through political will, we want to do that as well.
You talked about silently chatting with somebody and kind of talking things through by typing in to your phone or on your computer. With the lockdown in place, obviously a lot of people will think that services or support isn't available. Where can people go for support in confidence?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, even in the best relationship, when you're sort of locked down in a house and you can't really move, lots of tensions arise naturally. I know I've experienced that with my own partner. But, normally you'd go out, you'd diffuse, you'd be able to calm down. But when you're cooped up inside, those tensions can really escalate. So it's really important that we look at the different strategies that we can use to help our relationships. And that's a two-way street. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to spill over into something that's, really violent and abusive. But, getting the help, as I said, through even a chat service or even browsing online. If you Google, there's lots and lots of information out there of just small interventions that you can take that can help diffuse situations, that can help you broach the topic with your partner, or even, if need be, using emergency services and so on. Like I said, the danger is that we don't want things to escalate, because the end of the line is the loss of life. And so it's a very, very serious thing. And it starts off with smaller things, and we want to ensure people that the help is out there. Please reach out for it.
Dr. Hassam, thank you so much for talking to us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was Dr. Bilal Hassam, who's written a poem about domestic violence during the current pandemic.